I'm live, apparently. Hello. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the first virtual studio party for 2022 with me, Kim Lee Ko, and my charming co-host.
Wait, who's that? It's Cal. Welcome aboard, everyone. Great to be with you.
Yes.
Great to be with you, Kim.
Likewise, Cal. So, today is the eve of Lunar New Year's Day, celebrated by many in East Asia and I believe Southeast Asia as well. Just depends on the country, whether they do or they don't. And so I've got some tigers here, not mine. Just some references. My original plan was going to be continuing on with some wood burning drawing because I am working on a show for which I need to create quite a number of wood burning drawings, but technical issues arose, so that was kiboshed, and then it occurred to me, well, yeah, tomorrow's New Year's Day. I mean, tonight should be the big dinner. So we'll see if I have the strength to make the dumplings tonight or if it has to wait till tomorrow. Yeah, Happy New Year, everybody, both solar and lunar New Year.
Cool.
And who?
We have Valerie Ashton and we have Rebecca Niblett. And Rebecca says Kirk asked her to say hi from him as well. So
that's nice.
Hi right back to Kirk from us, and hi to you, Rebecca.
Lovely to
Val.
see you both as well.
Great to have you along. It's going to be,
yeah,
I think it's going to be a great session.
Well, we'll do our best. Right?
That is what we do.
So it's been a while since I've done some brush painting. When I did my Heart Space show in 2019, I did quite a lot of brush and ink hearts for that. Only a very small number of which were shown in the actual show, but I did quite a lot.
Was that the one at Redhead?
That was the one at the Redhead Gallery.
Yes,
that's
did
right.
Have a few there.
And actually, it was also at the preview was at Cedar Ridge Creative Center in Scarborough. So this is my wonderful. To this point, strictly decorative brush, but certainly perfectly usable.
Is that all going to change today?
I don't think I'm up to it today, okay. But it features in the thumbnail for this video. So I thought I can't have it as the thumbnail for the video and not address it.
Right.
So
we had a tiger, and this is the elephant in the room, is it?
That's right. And so it's made of this beautiful stone.
Wow.
So it's quite heavy.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And I think that the white parts are bone, and it is a natural hair that's forming the brush, and that various kinds of natural hair is used in traditional Chinese brushes. This is a different one, and I'm sorry, I can't tell you what this particular one is, but I love the shape of this brush. It's kind of a bit of a mop, but I find that change in profile quite elegant.
Yeah, so. And then the dark, but then shifting into the light end of the
hairs is quite beautiful. A natural ombre.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Right.
Yeah. Donna Nickel has joined us. Hello,
Hi,
Donna. And she says, Happy Chinese New Year.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and to you, Donna. Great to have you along.
And then this is, these come in a huge array of widths. Like some of them are enormous. And so it's got a burnt bamboo design, natural bamboo, and then again, a natural hair. This one's probably goat. That's what it reminds me of. So, and I have, containers of brushes. Well, there's one enormous knitting needle there too, but aside from that, brushes that I use for processes like this. And here's one more container. And so sometimes there's small brushes like this. This originally was pointed, and so I'll make it form the point again before I use it. This one's still pointed. Oh, here's another one of those lovely, completely different fur this time, or hair. Yeah.
And a lovely sort of russet color, right?
Yeah, beautiful color, ambery. And by comparison, this is a very refined brush because of the nature of the hair. But I also do things like I buy basting brushes, which is this one is also a natural hair. There you can see it. Wooden handle, and so it'll give you a much different effect. Whereas this will give you a lot more variety and control, but this will give you some interesting, rough, somewhat out of control things.
Some juicy and tasteful marks given that it's a basting brush.
Yeah. So anyway, for me, a huge part of the pleasure, I'm sure I'm not alone in this group. A huge part of the pleasure of art is the tools and materials. There's so much pleasure in handling them and considering what you might do with them and appreciating the properties they have. So we'll see what happens. I'm beginning this with no specific serious intent. I'm going to
but you
play.
have been assiduously practicing your Chinese brush painting skills leading up to this demo, right?
No.
Flying by the seat of her pants without a safety net.
That's normal.
Yet again. That's
normal.
Yep.
All things are normal.
And Cheryl Langille has joined us. Hello,
Hi, Cheryl.
Yeah.
Nice to see you here. I do have a small amount of traditional dry Chinese ink and an ink stone, but I'm not up to that today. Honestly, it's been a trying time, and I need to just have a little more fun than that feels like today.
That just sounds like a bit of a grind.
So, oh, it's good to have my co-host.
Or maybe not.
So I'm going to work with wet inks, and I have two different kinds here. I've got a super black India ink, and I've got a Japanese ink here. The label is using Chinese characters, but which the Japanese call kanji, and it's a Japanese ink.
Ruth Austin has joined us.
Hi, Ruth.
She says, "Happy Chinese New Year from Ottawa, current land of the trucks." And
yeah,
I take it that must be a current events reference.
Yes,
okay, that's why I have no clue. So Kim, that's why Kim knows and I don't.
And you know what? We don't. I send my commiserations. We don't need that negativity in our discussion
Right.
today. We're here to find something joyful.
You mean like Kim?
Yeah. There's a convoy of trucks shutting down Ottawa right now.
All right.
Just to give you the very briefest, and I'm not going to delve into any of the
anything as much as I want or need to know. Yeah.
So please tell me how you're doing and what you're up to today. And all of that. I'm dying to know. Cal's dying to know.
Yep. And more importantly, what have you got laid on for drinks and snacks? Oh, wait, did I say more importantly? Well, Ruth says, right on. Joyful.
Yeah.
Yes.
Joyful. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. There are important things happening in the world, and sometimes we need a break from
them, and that's what we're here for.
I know I do. So I'm just going to back this up so I can sort of set up. I won't switch to the overhead camera just yet, but I will back it up.
Back just a little further, I think.
There. Can sort of see me. There. I'll just sort of get set up and then we'll switch to the overhead. It's funny. I thought this was quite wide angle. It is sort of wide, but it's not very.
It's more sort of letterbox.
Yeah, it is. So I printed out some references that I think will serve as some kind of inspiration. I can't promise what level of tiger I may or may not get involved in, but there's some beautiful examples of tigers on the web. And Cal, were you about to update me?
I am, yes.
Excellent.
Ruth says, so you asked about what people were up to, and Ruth says she's organizing papers for her next session with Cal. Hey, way to go, Ruth.
Nice.
I could pour myself a cocktail now that you mention it, but it's a bit early.
Well, as they say, it's 5:00 somewhere. I think Val's the first person who put me onto that particular saying.
And funnily
enough,
enough,
she's here.
Val is the next comment. She says she's working on her Paris Collage Collective weekly collage.
Right?
Excellent. You are a dedicated collager, Val. I applaud you.
Yeah.
And Marianne Alberga has joined us. And she
Hi,
says,
Marianne.
Hi, Kim and Cal. Happy to be here today. Happy to have you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I hope that the health situation at home is going
Stable.
well.
Yeah. She says she's working on an embroidery sample project.
Oh, cool. Lovely. The state of our whole house is basically studio and storage, except for our bedroom and bathroom. And that's it. Everything else is some kind of studio or storage for art or art materials or art tools. And the state of it, now that we also have the many belongings of my godmother who's in long-term care and my father who died last year. It's also those things. And so the state of affairs is quite appalling in terms of trying to find anything. And sorry, I'm just going to adjust the exposure. It seems awfully overexposed.
Yeah,
hopefully that looks better.
Yeah, that does definitely look better.
Okay,
yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
I don't know why it's overexposed.
I think maybe when you pulled back, it drunk in more bright stuff.
Right,
and
that's
wasn't
probably
ready
it.
for it. But.
Anyway, so what happens is I'll sort of randomly come across stuff. So you mentioned embroidery, and today, looking for other things, I came across a container of my embroidery and stitchery for art supplies and materials, and thought, but must focus.
That sounds like Kim, right? Easily distracted on fun, interesting stuff.
It's an illness, I guess.
And don't you find, like, I know you're busy preparing for a show, right?
Yeah.
So you need to be focused on that for a lot of your time. But don't you find that is exactly when you find all the other stuff
all the
so
other
compelling?
things.
Like, I could do that.
Absolutely.
No, I gotta stay on
absolutely.
this.
Absolutely. That's when you decide that Fimo, making stuff out of Fimo clay is
sounds way
compelling,
more interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Rebecca says she's working on homework for me. Way to go, Rebecca.
This is a great time to do it, right? So that's great.
On the snack front, she said she just ate a bagel as a snack / late lunch.
Lovely.
Philippa has joined us. Hi, Philippa.
Hi, Philippa. Welcome.
She says, hi, Kim. Nice to be back. I'll probably be out of chat range soon, but we'll be watching on the TV. Oh,
okay, cool.
Kim on the big screen.
Yeah, that's a little scary. I hope my complexion is up to it.
You know it is.
Oh.
And Cherie has joined us.
Hey, Cherie.
She says, hi, guys. I'm joining you after Carol from Campbellville phoned and reminded me.
Oh,
good for her.
Isn't that sweet? So
Thank
maybe
you, Carol.
Carol's watching.
Yeah.
That would be nice. If you're watching, Carol, hi.
Yeah.
Lovely to
hello.
see you here, Cherie.
And Cherie says she was deep into her homework for collage vignettes. Well, that sounds like a nice course. Oh, wait a minute.
Doesn't it, though?
Yeah.
Oh, so one of the things that's if you were not at, I think almost everybody here was at Virtual Collage Jam last week. But for anybody who's watching now or who watches the replay later, who uh, didn't see Virtual Collage Jam on Cal Honey's channel, this is our new webcasting center. It's kind of like CBC's broadcasting center for the Olympics that I've watched for decades, but
this just in,
but a little smaller, with fewer people and a lot less tech. So, and a much smaller budget.
Yes. And now over to camera 1, and now back to camera 1.
Yeah, back to camera 1.
And this just in from Kim.
That's right. And we don't pull in the advertising dollars either. You'll notice a distinct lack of ads.
You'll have noticed that, and that might be for the better.
Yeah.
Well,
I think that is for the better.
Yeah.
So part of what we've got here in the new setup, which you didn't see in Virtual Collage Jam, I'm going to move the camera very slowly so I don't make people too seasick.
Rebecca said, "You look beautiful," when you were worried about your complexion.
Oh,
you're right.
So kind,
you're right,
Rebecca. Thank you.
I'm sure Kirk would agree.
I have these new silicone mats that are double thick silicone. I'm hoping. And you can see my nice chipped nail. I just painted that yesterday and it's already chipped. Anyway, so I've got this lovely sort of red-orange one and a gray one here.
That's like a 16th of an inch thick, it looks like.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good thickness to be sturdier. And it's to protect our cutting mat, because I'm working with ink today. And I'll use it for gel plate printing as well.
The cutting mat's there to protect the table. And the...
Yeah, and this is here to
protect the cutting mat.
Well, because this size of cutting mat is not inexpensive.
No, so, that's true.
I mean, it's not massively expensive. In the old days, it would have cost, a used car price or something. Exactly. Okay, I'm just going to move us to overhead.
Going on that side this time. Clever. And Cherie says probably of your red silicone mat that she's jealous. Yes,
it's
rightly so.
It's awesome.
It's quite the mat.
Yeah, it's quite good. Okay, I think that's about the right.
Marianne says, "Ooh, that silicone mat looks amazing."
Yeah, I recommend it. Anytime you're using wet or sticky. If you're gluing stuff, printmaking, all of that stuff, these silicone mats can be really good. And I have purchased them in kitchen departments before, but with mixed results. And part of it is, getting this double thick or extra thick. It's probably not double. Should help in terms of the quality for working with art. And so I ordered these from, I confess, from Amazon. I do what I can to support actual local or semi-local or even national businesses, as opposed to the behemoth, but sometimes I have to go to the...
Well, and you anticipated Cherie's question, which was, where did you get it? So.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it was on Amazon. And if you look for silicone craft mat extra thick, you should be able to get quite a few
options,
results. Yeah. I mean, there are also ones meant for baking that are extra thick, so you can... And they come in different colors. Like this one's red orange, but I could have got it in blue. Could have gotten a whole bunch of different colors, or non-colors like white or gray, which can be great for not influencing your art. That's why I have a gray one. But red is.
You're also a big fan of red, though, right? So
Yeah, people who are familiar with me may realize that red's kind of my signature color. So, okay. Look at this porcelain. Porcelain or ceramic is a traditional palette for this dish, and specifically isn't, but the traditional palettes for Chinese brush painting, Japanese brush painting are, and probably Korean brush painting, are made of ceramic. China led the world in developing ceramic technology in the ancient world, and so used it for everything. Okay.
So Cheryl says she's working on taping many pages of gel plate printing of heart designs,
Oh,
which sounds
wow.
great, to decorate my vase for the season. I'm learning many things by trial and error as I experiment with gel plates. Cool.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and gel plates are great for experimenting.
Oh,
They're so,
and it's such a
responsive,
playful, responsive,
yeah, exactly.
iterative process, just inherently.
Yeah.
Speaking of gel plates, well, actually, first I'm just going to show, I've got some ink wash. What I do is when I have containers of water that I've been rinsing ink brushes in for a whole session, then I tend to save the ink wash, because if it hasn't been polluted with any other kind of ingredient, there's no reason I can't use that. Yeah, so I just wanted to mention that because I'm about to put some into a dish. But getting back to gel plates, I've been talking with Quest Art in Midland, and last year I ran a couple of workshops, half-day workshops with them on gel plate that were very popular and sold out. And they approached me about doing another one in May. And May is tricky for me because May is when my solo show at the Redhead Gallery called Burnt Offerings takes place. And it's going to be part of the Contact Festival of Photography in Toronto, which takes place in the month of May. And look, I've made my first mark on the paper.
Perfect.
Just by closing my container. That's a classic move right there. Yeah, I like to do that. Yeah. So I have that show, and so the first dates they proposed were when I would actually be installing the show.
Perhaps not the best choice.
So not a best choice. And just recently, I was invited by a curator to be part of another show, significant show at a public gallery that will also be part of Contact. And I'll be showing work that's related to the work in my solo show, but a different spin on it. And I'm really excited, actually. So I've never been an official part of the Contact Festival before, and now I'll be part of two shows. So wow. Yeah. I feel a little wind blown by it all,
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Cherie writes that she needs to buy one of those circle lights. She said in her studio, the task lighting is perfect, but on Zoom, she looks like she's in the dark.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you wear glasses, Cherie?
Because often those
the ring lights are problematic for people who wear glasses.
They're often quite noticeable. I mean, lots of reflections in glasses are noticeable. Like you'll see a rectangle of light if there's a rectangular light, but there's something about the circle that's even more noticeable because it's dark in the center and it gives you this ring.
You can get small. I bought for
and she says
for tabletop photography, I bought a couple of small rectangular LED lights so I can have two directions coming at the sides. The ring light is, center, and it'll show up in your glasses as a big white bright ring, and so that's problematic. But these lights I bought, God, also on Amazon, because very affordable there. I think Cal's run down to get them so that he can show them, or I can show them to you. So I'm just going to do some, I'm using the wash first, just playing with the brush. I always like to warm up with some mark making. I don't know how many of you here might be at all acquainted with the work of Cole Swanson, a Toronto artist who
it's attached to an arm
whom I admire. But I'll get back to that because Cal's brought this. So the arm is a different thing. So all from here down is the arm, but it's this little thing.
And the arms are, so like it's not what didn't come with the light.
So this is the light. So you see it's quite small.
Compact, yeah. It's like 2.5 inches across, maybe 3 at the most.
It's quite bright. It's brighter than it's looking on my screen, which is probably a mercy.
Yeah.
And the other thing is it can change color.
I forget exactly how to do that, but
yeah.
I think just pressing the power button, or no, that might be it. That's color temperature.
So you can make it cool or warm. Sorry, I'm trying to remember how to do this. At one point, I had it running through the color spectrum and all kinds of things. On the back, it has a readout that shows you what temperature of light you're showing, how strong. So 54% of its full strength is there, and so on. And it mounts, it has a hot shoe mount, so it'll mount on a hot shoe on a camera.
Or on a typical tripod mount, which is what it's on now. Yeah.
Yeah, it's on a tripod mount here.
Yeah, so they're awesome and they're battery and rechargeable. So
yeah. Is it a rechargeable? It's battery, that's for sure. Anyway,
it's been a little while since
very
we
small
got them.
and light, and they were very affordable. But it was a while ago, months ago, so I don't remember exactly. So that's the light. Oh, Cal's got it to turn green.
Yeah. So
yeah. Was that pressing the power button?
That's pressing the power button. Yeah. So you can use.
You know what? They can't see. So you can see it in the reflected light on my hand. That's a green light.
That's amazing that it's not showing.
So in person, this looks bright green to us.
That's wild.
But the camera that's recording this isn't registering that for some reason.
And Cherie says, sounds perfect. She'll Google them on Amazon. Thanks for the tip.
Yeah.
And on the back, it says Docalite, DOCALITE. So that will probably help you find them.
Yeah. So
cool.
Anyway.
I'll get that out of here. And now we return you to your previous train of thought.
Sorry the brushwork I'm doing here reminds me of a body of work that Cole Swanson does and has done using he makes his own pigments from soil and wood and fungus and whatever natural things he finds in a place where he is, and does these extraordinary paintings that use brush in this way, use it quite fluidly. So he grinds the whatever element he's using to make the pigment with down. He's got a beautiful glass grinder. I have to admit I have a little grinder envy.
Grinder envy.
Yeah.
And just before we get too far along, I want to pass along that Ruth's your shows.
Yes.
Ruth says congrats. Val
Thank
says
you.
Congratulations on your contact shows.
Thanks so much.
And Philip says, wow, is right. Well done.
Thank you so much.
And Annie has joined us. Hello,
hey, Annie.
Welcome back. Happy New Year. And she says he's just tuning in while getting New Year's Eve dinner together.
I was going to say,
much happiness, good health, and prosperity to you all.
Oh,
hey, fat choy, Annie.
Likewise, Annie. Yeah. May it be a good year for us all.
Yeah, we could use one.
And we know we're not alone in that.
The Western year didn't start off very well, so
maybe
we could have a
Lunar
Chinese
New Year
reboot.
will.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The lunar reboot.
So you see the difference in the pure black versus the wash? And you see how the red's coming through where the water's still wet and making the paper transparent. So that's kind of fun. I know I'll probably almost always mention this, the importance of warming up.
It looks like you're actually doing it this time, though. Because you've been known to launch straight in, even despite your.
I have, but that's me not taking my own wisdom into account, so.
Yeah, you are an unruly child.
I am.
She did some.
Some image transfers.
Yeah. Where she painstakingly, and it took her a while to prepare the panel because she painted them with like aluminum paint that took quite a while to dry and took some care to make it good and even. And then she, not having done an image transfer for months, she just launched straight in on the actual
full page image transfer.
And
it came out fine.
Yep. You're a lucky artist. Yeah.
I am a bit of a skydiver by nature. Actually, I'll show you those because they're right behind me. So these are tests for my my show coming up. And the painstaking prep, this doesn't show well on the camera, but there, maybe you can get a sense of it. That's silver colored. It's actually aluminum paint, which is to say aluminum has been ground to a very fine texture and then mixed with emulsion to make a paint. And it's oil based, and you have to wear a respirator and you have to be well ventilated and all those good things before you can paint with it. But it did a beautiful job. I primed the wood panel first. And then when it was all dry, good and dry, then I did this film-based image transfer. And you can see lovely irregularities from the emulsion in there.
Yeah, it does look great.
But yeah, it transferred really well. And it, anywhere there was white in the image is the silver of the paint underneath.
Yeah. So to your earlier point about Cole, Marianne says, yes, I think he's the one who collected soil samples from High Park to make ink.
Yes, that would be him.
And he did a room at the Gladstone Hotel using like ground reclaimed bricks for some of the colors.
From the hotel. Because it was being refurbished, right? Yeah, and he painted an extraordinary mural in that hotel. Like, amazing.
And I love the degree of integration that signals, right? It's like I'm making a work for this location from out of its history, right?
Yeah. And I remember at the time him saying that he was just loving doing it so much that I think he covered
more walls than
wall space than he'd originally planned to. So his enthusiasm is fantastic, and he's incredibly knowledgeable and sophisticated about what he does.
He's that wonderful thing of he's both an amazingly talented artist and a wonderful human being.
Yeah.
Cherie says of the image, just before you get onto that one, of the previous one, she says, "What a poignant image, beautiful."
Thank you very much.
Beautiful, and Marianne says, "Incredible."
And this image of fire here. So the show's called Burnt Offering. So fire figures in it in different ways, directly and indirectly. image-wise or object-wise. But there are all kinds of lovely irregularities in this transfer. But something that's interesting that happens to the colors, because the colors have transparency, and so there's a subtle metallic effect to the yellows and oranges and reds.
Yeah, they have,
which I really love.
I mean, it's not, but it has it's kind of akin to like a automotive kind of finish in some ways, right? Although it's imagery, right?
A little bit, yeah. So anyway, the test went well, so
expect more.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And now back to the brush paintings.
Anyway, I love the brushwork that Cole does in those paintings, which he now shows at the highly esteemed Paul Petro Gallery in downtown Toronto.
I wasn't aware of that.
So,
that's awesome.
Good for him, because that's premium right there.
Yep.
It's good. Some galleries have closed because, COVID happened. And aside from financial considerations, I think a lot of people sort of gave their lives a bit of a rethink. And for some gallerists, that entailed them deciding to close up.
And while it's sad, I can completely understand. I mean,
Sure.
Galleries are such a challenge.
They're very demanding.
They're a challenge, very demanding, and they're incredibly difficult to make ends meet.
Yeah.
Especially with Toronto rents.
Yeah.
Or property prices.
I don't know. All of that sounds a lot like being an artist too, right? Incredibly challenging.
Yep.
It's difficult to make ends meet. Hard work. Obviously there are inherent rewards as well, but okay. So this is some brush painting paper that came on a roll that I'd already cut. So I'm on a COVID has led me to an attempt to use up some of my stashes of paper, because I have
there are quite a few of those, though.
I have a lot of stashes of paper.
You do.
Pads and rules and sheets and offcuts, and who else is feeling some of that? I bet I'm not alone.
Yeah, I bet they came to that earlier than you did. Some of them probably worked through them in previous years.
Maybe.
But yes,
okay, so I can tell you one drawback to a silicone surface, because it's a non-stick surface.
The tape is just peeling up off of it.
The tape does not like to it doesn't adhere.
Nope.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick this on one end.
Go to weight as the alternative.
And I'll get another weight for the other end. Try not to get ink on my keyboard. Cal's like holding his breath as I move things around here.
No, I'm not.
You're not,
I'm not at all.
You're not at all. Okay.
You might have heard me chuckle, but it was because I was reading Ruth's comment. She said she's currently knee-deep in magazine cuttings, so you can no doubt she's working on her homework for me.
Excellent.
And she says, a cocktail is sounding better the more I think about it.
Well, like I said, we're in Eastern time, but there's Atlantic time. So Atlantic time, it's 3:39. Newfoundland, it's 4:09. I don't know what it is in Iceland. Can you look up what time it is in Iceland right now? Reykjavik. Because England's 5 hours ahead of us, so it's already 7:40 p.m. in England. Ruth,
7:40 p.m. Plenty, good time.
Oh, so they're the same as English time?
I guess, yeah.
Oh, interesting. I guess there are advantages for them to be on the same time zone. I'm just contemplating what brush I might use. Okay, you know what? I've never used this brush. So why don't I? There's a little wobble in the. So there.
Ruth replies, "Yeah, my husband's from Newfoundland. Sorry, Newfoundland. Understand?"
That's right.
And she says that she could go with the 4:10 time. Oh, and I was born in England. There we go.
Yeah. So average them out,
yeah,
right?
Oh, yeah.
And you're I don't know, 6 o'clock practically.
You could have a little time zone cocktail there.
Mm-hmm. So, all right. So I am going to use this beautiful brush for the first time. It's very soft. It has a beautiful soft feeling, but because it's very fine at the ends where it's dark, and it's coarser at the lighter end, which is actually a nice balance, and I'm looking forward to trying it. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is wet it. I have a container of water over on my right here, and I'm going to wet it because it's going to be very thirsty, and I don't want it to only drink up ink. But I don't want to water down the ink I use necessarily. So I'm going to get some paper towel. And squeeze out the excess water so that it's damp, but not sopping wet. Okay. But the surface is pretty dry. So maybe I will start with some wash.
In response to your earlier comment, Rebecca says her stash just keeps getting bigger. She even bought some more scrapbook paper at a garage sale in a couple of week period over the summer when she felt safe going out.
Yeah.
And people give her stuff.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah. And we also get, which is lovely. We get lots of donations. Yeah, exactly. But it definitely means it's like, oh, where are we going to put this now?
Yeah. So,
Suddenly, everyone's holding their breath.
I certainly am. Reload. All right. That was fun. That was fun. Let's get some more spatters going. I like the spatters.
Annie says, I need that big brush.
You do. It's awesome. Look at that brush. There, you can see it relative to my hand. That's a nice size. And it spreads nicely, right? So having done that with the wash, so it's a fairly dark wash. And of course the red is coming through, so that when it dries, it won't be so transparent. And as I say, there's no plan here. I'm just playing and seeing what happens.
Getting to know a tool.
Yeah.
Or a set of tools. Cherie says she's loving the bleed.
Yeah. Yeah. When I have some sturdier paper, and I'm going to play with bleed on that specifically.
So forgive me, you might have mentioned it, but I didn't catch it. Is one of your ceramic things full of full strength and one is water?
Yes, yeah? I've now switched to the full strength.
Okay, right.
And that's bleeding nicely because, of course, the wash is super wet. So
that's great.
It's causing where I'm overlapping with the wash. It's
doing some lovely stuff there.
Yeah. It's blooming.
It's blooming brilliant.
Oops. Try to keep a grip on your brush.
I'm not sure if Gerda is with us this week, but I know she studied a few years of Chinese brush painting.
Yeah.
So this might be up her alley.
Well, she might find it annoying because I use it in a very personal way.
You're so flagrantly flaunting the.
But that's what I do with all the media.
Everything, exactly.
All the media I play with.
Tradition? What tradition?
Well, I acknowledge the tradition. I'm not unaware of the tradition. I don't practice the tradition.
Yeah, exactly.
The tradition is valuable, and I study it in a visual way. And other ways. My mother took Chinese ink painting and calligraphy when I was growing up. So we had, I don't think she ever framed any of her own, but we had examples by her teacher that she bought. She may actually, I can't remember if she has it in her apartment now, any of those. I think she must at least have the bamboo scroll. They did. It's fun, actually, for me to look at it on the screen because it gives me perspective, like standing back from it to see what's happening, the overall effect.
Yes, I was noticing that in a workshop that I was doing on the weekend, and I just thought, it's great. I get to see it in miniature.
Yeah.
In sort of as I'm working on it.
Yeah.
And it's great.
It's wonderful.
It's great to have that sort of
without having to actually move or take a photograph or do any of that.
Yeah.
Oh, let's get a little dry brush going too. It's nice to have a combination of sinuous and nervous line or mark. Why don't I bring something in from this side? Now, just because I'm inclined to forget, as you well know, Cal, I meant to say when I was talking about gel plate printing and quest art that I hope you'll be hearing about a new workshop from me through them. And what I've proposed to them is gel plate printmaking with everyday objects, because it is such a, of course you can enter into it as a complete beginner, but it's actually such a rich set of potentials. So you can go as deep with it as you want. And I love working with found and discarded objects as well as everyday objects. So I thought that would be a fun topic.
You know what it's going to be.
So, and of course, we'll explore ways of making working with that kind of set of tools. Trying to make some interesting prints out of that and ways of approaching it, creating structure and contrasts and working with the layers to get something interesting out of it. Okay, now I see that this side is not as well lit as this side, so I'm just going to move the light and maybe it will that improve it all. Maybe slightly. Yeah, I think it improved a bit. Yeah. Okay.
Ruth says the examples by the teacher are usually the best. LOL. Sometimes very much not, though. Sometimes we
you know what? When I demo, I don't have it all scripted out. I don't have it like, okay, I'm going to do this sequence and it's going to work out all perfectly, blah, 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 because it's not a cooking show. And I know some teachers want to have control, so they're much more controlled about how they do it. I, of course, have prepped and practiced and got my head into that space before the workshop happens. But then what you see is me flying by the seat of my pants with that prep underneath me. And I think that that's helpful because you get to see me mess up and then you get to see me dig myself out. And I think that's super helpful because that's what we all have to do, right? When we're doing it without a teacher. So I'm glad if you think the examples are good, because I certainly want them to be inspiring and useful. But I also hope that the higher risk quotient in my demonstrations is also helpful.
You try to demonstrate an approach and an attitude as much as more than maybe a technique.
I remember, it reminds me, I should get some of the heavier paper so I can try that thing I was talking about. I used to teach a weekly figurative art class, which was my version of life drawing, but I didn't call it life drawing because as soon as you say life drawing, it sets up expectations. And of course, my figurative art class was exploring artistic thinking and artistic approaches, adventurous, experimental, contemporary, whatever you want to call it, approaches to working with the figure, and with mostly drawing media, but not exclusively, and sometimes wet media. And there was a time when I brought in unusual tools, and there were all kinds of crazy things. I brought in a toy box, basically. And one of the things I brought in was a few CDs, old CD-ROMs that I'd burnt and didn't need anymore. And one of my regular students, who's very experienced, very skilled artist, she, with a little smirk on her face, said, so show us what you would do with a CD to do gestures, right? And so we were working with paint that day, and I had never done anything with a CD. I just bring these things in as interesting. Some of them I had worked with, some of them I hadn't. I look at objects the way an alien might, looking at the possibilities. And so it was like, oh boy, it's like she's calling me on my bluff or something, right?
Gauntlets down.
That's right. And actually the gesture turned out great. Like everybody was amazed, including me. It really worked out well. And it just shows you, right? Like you just don't know until you try it what you might get out of something. All right. That wasn't the good paper. I'm going to get the...
Cheryl says, I totally agree with your philosophy of teaching. I can definitely relate to the going by the seat of my pants because that has been my main style of doing a lot of things, including my teaching.
Cal, oh, there are scissors over here. Okay.
All right. They're within reach?
Yeah. I will be all right.
Yay.
This is a very interesting paper. Very often these papers on rolls, whether they're Chinese or Japanese papers, not the high-end papers, but a more everyday practice sort of paper. They'll have a very smooth finish on one side. So you see the sheen on that side. And then, I mean, it's so smooth, you'd almost think it was coated, but it's not. It's just been pressed in a particular way in the paper making process. And then this side is super dull and sort of textured and almost felt-like. So the reason I'm mentioning that is, first of all, it's a common thing with these papers. But secondly, this roll in particular, the contrast between the two sides is really pronounced, unusually pronounced. So I thought it was worth mentioning. Now, you used to be able to get papers like this from Curry's. And
once upon a time.
I don't know. I know they stopped carrying the beautiful wide, what was it, 36 or 39 inch wide Chinese paper on rolls. They wanted to discontinue it right when I was in the midst of a massive project that required acres of it. And I wrote quite a letter to them. It's probably smoked its way to the to them. I think they might have kept on smaller rolls of Japanese calligraphy paper or something. Very limited though, like maybe 1 or 2 widths, and that's it. And I did sort of point out to them that, if they actually marketed it to the East Asian community and to found teachers who teach this sort of stuff and maybe offered them some coupons, they might actually get some clientele that uses it. But anyway, so where do I go? I go to Chinatown in Toronto, which I don't get to very often. There are, of course, multiple Chinatowns in the Greater Toronto area. There's Markham, there's Mississauga, there's the southeast part of Toronto, like Broadview and Queen-ish area, as well as the Spadina and Dundas area. But if you don't have a Chinatown where you are, look for Chinese bookstores or gift shops. They may sell them. And if you're more remote than that, then order online. And of course, Amazon sells it. Walmart doesn't sell it. I'm trying to think of other places. And you can Google it too.
Rebecca shares that her master's work was based a lot on, quote, popular education.
Yes.
Frere, not a name I'm familiar with, but I'm sure Rebecca is quite. which prioritizes starting where your students are, learning together, student-directed learning, and even making and using mistakes. That sounds awesome. That sounds
awesome.
Very much in alignment with your values and mine.
Yeah.
Too, so.
I mean, making and using mistakes. Totally. Yeah. Very interesting, Rebecca. I like hearing about that.
When I was first starting teaching out, I remember one of the arts educators who was interviewing me said, so how do you approach having different levels in your class? And I said, I try and meet people where they are.
Yeah.
And she said, I think that got me the interview. It got me the job because she said, ooh, meet you where you are. I like that.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, where else am I going to meet you? You're right. Like everyone's at a different stage in their trajectory.
Even if they're experienced artists, they're at a different stage with something.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they have things they're more experienced in and less experienced in, and beginners can be wonderfully open. I remember having one beginner in one of my Halliburton acrylics classes that was mostly full of experienced acrylics painters, but because it was about process and materials, it was experimental. So you know, you didn't have to be a portrait artist to take it or anything like that.
If you had sort of traditional realistic painting skills, they weren't necessarily
a benefit.
Yeah, exactly.
What was more important was attitude. And this one beginner, she had an awesome attitude. And she was just so open because she had no expectations, right?
Yeah.
Which was the perfect place to be. So I've diluted my wash. I don't know. I've got a tiger in front of me. I'm not going to produce a tiger because, man, I've never painted a tiger in my life. But I'm going to sort of be inspired by the reference I'm looking at, which is this reference. And just, I'm actually painting the orange parts right now using the wash. So, you know, this is not going to look like a tiger, but that's fine. It doesn't have to.
Val says she did buy rolls of paper from above ground at one time. Not sure if they still carry it. So
so that, yeah, see, I think they do. They've never carried the really big, the wide rolls.
Yeah.
That's the problem. The only place I was able to get them was at Curry's. And
yeah, and they were at least a meter wide, I think, which is
yeah.
Marianne writes, Frere wrote an important book called The Pedagogy of the Oppressed. Oh,
wow. Fascinating. Sometimes working with a reference, you know, it's not about making it look like the reference. It's about what does it bring out in what you're doing. This came up recently I teach a course called Tradigital Art Studio, where we work in Photoshop. We bring in things that are made from like this. We digitize them, bring them in, and then also use digital processes in Photoshop and combine it, mix it up. Which, if you've seen my art, you'll have seen that in action a lot. And oh man, what was I about to? Oh yes, so we were doing digital collage, and I had some reference photos for people to work from. And I really made a point of reminding them, you know, this is not scientific illustration. A botanist doesn't need to look at this potted plant that you've made a collage of and have any idea what plant that is.
Right.
It's a starting point. It's a set of shapes. It's a density, scale, contrasting shapes and sizes. You know, it's an opportunity for lots of things to inspire you. And that can be really hard for people who are very good at representation to let go of the representation and find inspiration from from the image. So I'm quite enjoying the marks that are growing out of my looking at this tiger. Now I seem to be painting some of the black marks from the tiger. So he's
tiger riffs.
Yeah. This will be my year of the tiger. Kim's peculiar year of the tiger. That's so interesting, about that pedagogical approach.
Mm-hmm.
Cal and I, neither of us have studied teaching, but we have a number of friends and colleagues who've studied teaching extensively and have been very kind about our approach.
Well, they've also sort of shared a bunch of resources with us, and which has been lovely. Rebecca says, I'd also recommend Diane Marino, who was an artist, a student of Karita Kent. And popular educator. And Karita Kent is that the pop artist screen printer who I shared in our pop art class, right? And I had asked Marianne if Freire related at all to, and the pedagogy of the oppressed related to arte povera at all, because I thought it might, but she says she's not sure. So
right.
So we'll definitely look up Diane Marino. I'm going to jot her down. Thanks, Rebecca and Ferreira. Let's get a pen.
Time for some black. There's going to be some bleeding happening on this. It's so wet. You start not bleeding. Ooh, what a bloom that got. I'll get it further along and then I'll hold it up closer so you can see the bloom. That's remarkable. At least it'll be stripy, so that'll have some of the spirit of the Year of the Tiger. So Annie, do you make any traditional dishes for Chinese New Year? I was thinking I don't know if I'll have the strength tonight. I might have to do it tomorrow for making dumplings. Dumplings are problematic for me because of all my food intolerances, so I have to make my own skins for the dumplings. So it's more labor intensive than...
But it'll be oh so sweet if you can actually eat a dumpling.
Oh my
When was
God.
the last time you ate a dumpling, right?
Yeah.
Because
it's horrible. Chinese food is so hard for me to be able to eat. And honestly, food is such a central part of the culture.
Have you eaten yet? Right?
Yeah, is a greeting. Have you eaten yet? I think the Koreans use something like that too.
Yeah? All right.
Yeah. I don't know if the Japanese do. The Japanese are a little different. They, for example, gave up celebrating Lunar New Year. They used to, but they switched to Solar New Year. I'm not sure exactly when. Might have been a 20th century thing. Ooh.
Rebecca says Koreans do.
Thank you very much.
I guess, Rebecca, I know you guys were eating your way around the world at one point, but I guess that's sort of on hiatus with the, what was it, nickel that you were trying to expunge from your diet. How is that going? I hope it's going well, and maybe you can get back to a broader diet soon. Marianne says his pedagogy is about flattening the power structure in the classroom that students and teachers learn together. I often say in my classes, and Kim does the same, that the instructor is supposedly the instructor, but you learn as much or more from everyone else in the class as you will from the instructor. Because
I think from my perspective, there's sort of a balance, because I put a lot of work into research and putting together based on what I understand about learning, like literally in the field, observing how people learn. Different people learn differently and better, and so on. Trying to structure the knowledge to make it comprehensible and make it triable. But that makes me a resource.
Yeah, and then you put that out to students and then watch what happens,
exactly.
right? Because students will take it in places you could never imagine, which is wonderful.
I'm genuinely have always been disturbed by classes where you see, classes put out their work and it's all like very slight variations on identical things. And I'm not talking about a color mixing swatch thing, but I just find it so disturbing when it's not more varied than that.
Yeah.
So I don't teach that. Yeah.
So we've got responses on everything from food to pedagogy.
Oh, fabulous.
So
I love it.
Annie says, we have dumplings from Frozen. Haha.
Yeah.
Long beans, long noodles, chicken, all with various luck, but I cannot recall them all. I cheat by buying the roast meats at the Chinese grocery store.
Oh, well, why not?
That's
they
awesome.
Make it for a reason,
exactly.
Right?
That sounds great. We'll be right over. Marianne says something like that anyway, to which she might be referring to her own comment about flattening the power structure in the classroom, or to something we said. I'm not positive. Right. And she also replies, and Karita Kent's Learning by Heart is a fabulous book. Oh, okay, I didn't know that she had written a book. That's
Learning
great.
by Heart. I like the sense.
Yeah, exactly.
I love heart-based things, so
especially for anyone struggling with creative blocks. Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. You guys are see.
Thank you.
So
everybody.
many great resources.
I love
it's wonderful.
It.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. Well, this is what creative community is all about.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Is sharing stuff. So thank you guys.
Yeah.
And Rebecca replies to my question about how the food's going. She says, slowly testing different foods. Tried chocolate over the weekend. I hope that went well, because that's an important part. That's a food group.
Yeah.
that's
I do have some reaction to chocolate, and I just refuse to give it up. It's literally the only pleasure food I have left, right? Like,
yeah.
So I refuse to give it up, because life needs to be worth living.
She says the biggest issue with the way popular education, this is Rebecca, has been translated to the English-speaking world is that people leave out the need for the teacher to also introduce new expert knowledge. Right. Because that is an important part of it, right? I mean,
there's a limit to discovery. Like, you don't want to literally have to reinvent the wheel. You can get a little head start on, like,
no, exactly.
There are ways of
thinking. a balance for both instructor and student. I think the instructor should have knowledge, but should not be open to new knowledge, right?
Yeah.
Not just be
and that's the other thing, right? Like I think about some of the teachers who were near retirement when I was in high school.
Right, yes.
They were relying on lesson plans they'd developed quite some time ago, right? And you knew that was the case. You could tell.
Yeah.
And it's not that, of course, you build on knowledge you have and things you know that work, but honestly, it also the topic would be dead to me if I weren't sort of scrambling last minute to incorporate some new idea or new, that's the classic scenario for both of us, right? We think, oh man, why am I scrambling around again? But we're scrambling around because that's what makes it
because
alive.
we need it to be fresh.
We need to be alive to
exactly.
teach it. Yeah. It's turning into a bit of a tiger, I admit.
It is.
More than I thought it might.
Well, and perhaps that is because half of your mind is on conversation.
And it's fine that it's turning into a tiger. It's just I wasn't going to be attached to it turning out to be like a tiger because I knew that I was just playing with the reference.
I should give you a heads up that it's 3:17.
Is it really? Wow. I say that every time, I know, but it really...
We both do.
Sometimes the time just goes by so quickly. Helps to have such a lovely group, doesn't it?
Exactly.
Yes.
And I've noticed that several of you guys have given the video a like. Thank you, guys. If any of you haven't but wouldn't mind doing so, that helps YouTube show it to more people, which is great. Maybe we'll get some new people to our feeds. Ruth says, "Yet I am still ripping up magazines."
Even though we're almost
a woman after my own heart, Ruth. Bless you.
Yeah.
I mean, what's not to love, right?
Who are we to deny you that pleasure, Ruth?
Exactly. If you're on a tear, stick with it.
Wow. Can you see the tiger's head?
I totally can. And so can everyone else. They're like, of course we knew you were doing a tiger. It wasn't news to them. It was only news to the artist.
Well,
yes, Ruth. Ruth says, also found some good recipes. I sometimes think I'm going through magazines for color or texture or images, and then I find that I've just read 3 articles. If it's, which is fine. Like sometimes that's actually what you need. Exactly. But if you're trying to stay on message and just looking for colors and textures, I find flipping the magazine upside down detaches it a little bit from like reading and looking at the images and lets you look for more abstract qualities if and when that helps. If and when that's desirable. Exactly.
Ooh, that was fun.
Annie says, awesome tiger.
Aw, thank you. You're watching me paint my very first or draw my very first tiger. So, here we are. How appropriate, though. You're the tiger and all that.
Yeah. Kim's mom, who is, let's just say, of relatively advanced years.
Yeah.
But is quite young in terms of her use of technology. Just finished doing a Year of the Tiger YouTube video. And she's done more videos in the last year than of her own creation than I have ever.
Yeah.
And
well, that has to change.
It's fun. Yeah.
I'm going to share her Chinese New Year one on YouTube because on social media because she's it's quite impressive that she's sat down and taught herself how to use Canva and things like that to make informative.
Yeah, and she knows,
visually
and she knows
rich.
a fair bit. She's always been interested in East Asian culture, and so she knows a lot about it.
Yeah, she lived in Hong Kong for some years too. She's not my Chinese parent, just in case anyone's wondering. Thinking, well, yeah, of course.
Right, yes.
Right? She's
No.
my British
Anglo.
Isles.
Yeah.
British Isles parent. Well, second Fang was pretty pathetic, but you know, can't get it all right in the first go round, can you?
Hey, you progressed straight into ink. You haven't done your 10,000 hours of painting with water on stone.
No, I haven't. No, but I did grow up painting and writing with brush and ink.
Right. Yes, and whether in you do that a lot in your sketchbooks, right?
Yeah, I use a Japanese brush pen made by Pentel that's
got a little
uses
reservoir
cartridges.
in it. Yeah.
Uses cartridges, and you know, it's not a fancy art one, but it's I love using it because it's genuinely brushy feeling.
Yeah.
And it's a pen size. It's a nice convenient size. And right now, my sketchbook is actually full of writing with brush pen. That seems to be what I'm about. So I think my next show is going to feature some writing and me speaking the writing.
Right. Cool.
You know, so my voice will be involved in some
spoken word poetry debut, maybe.
You know what? Every time I do a show, I do stuff that I don't know how to do. So sort of a philosophy of life, I guess.
Or you didn't know how to do before you started it. And yeah, that certain artists, that's their...
It's necessary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are some great examples of artists who just keep reinventing themselves. I mean, some that come to mind immediately are more musicians, but like David Bowie and who else? There's some other ones.
Bjork,
yeah, constantly reinventing herself.
Yeah.
And he says, you can sing it. Could happen.
You never know, Annie.
Yep.
You never know.
Or it might be a combination. A little bit of spoken, a little bit of sung.
I've also been thinking about just vocalizations that aren't a song, aren't words, but change over time and are about feeling, right? An expression of experience and feeling without words, because it's beyond words. When we have really profound emotional experiences, spiritual experiences, they take us beyond words, beyond images and beyond words, although we can use words and images to try and capture aspects of them. And so I thought the human voice is a great way to come at that. So I say all this. I have no idea how this is all going to work out when the dust settles, but these are things that I'm thinking about for sure.
Well, and I can see parallels between non-objective work, like purely abstract visual art, and non-word.
Yes, exactly.
Expression, vocal
and
expression.
Like John Cage's music.
Yeah.
You know, is sort of like that too.
Well, and Eddie Vedder's soundtrack for Into the Wild had one track that had lots of vocalization and no words, and it is hauntingly.
It is. Oh, I have goosebumps just remembering it.
Yeah,
actually.
Yeah, and
So that's certainly a source of inspiration for me, that particular piece, because there we are. It's not crooked anymore.
Sorry, I'm interrupting you because you're trying to show them.
It's all right. I'm just I'm going to bring it up closer now so you can see what the marks look like close up. There, that's good. You can see the dark, the black on the wash.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and there's an example of some really pronounced bloom.
Yeah, that's great.
And then how it's clear when it leaves the wash areas.
It has, like watercolor, it has this huge dependence on how wet whatever is down when you hit it again. Like if it's damp, it blooms a little bit. If it's really wet, it blooms a lot. And that can change over a course of even a few seconds or a half minute between when you take a wet brush into a wet area.
And it's still damp. Like I'm feeling the dampness.
Yeah, that paper is pretty thin, right? It's pretty absorbent, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's thicker than some of my other paper, but turn them around again. So I don't know. That's kind of fun, eh?
That is kind of fun. And it's great. The red silicone is the perfect foil to all this black and white.
Makes it feel like yeah. So this was the reference I was looking at, and I was more adventurous with the mark making than the source, because of course I was. They're trying to paint a tiger in a tradition. Look at that beautiful calligraphy. That's wonderful.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
And the chops, the seals. Yeah. Whereas I was about the marks first, and then it happened to. Oh, I see. There's a focus problem. Okay, let's bring it down. Hello, camera. You can focus on my hand, right? Of course you can't. There we go. Now it looks good.
There we go.
Yeah, properly in focus. So, how are your processes going?
Yeah,
everybody?
How's your session been going?
Well, I take a little drink. So I'm going to make my dumpling skins from spelt flour. And do we have any ground meat in the house?
Yep. Yeah, it's frozen right now, but we can definitely.
So we can use
absolutely.
That to make the filling. Traditionally, it would be ground pork, but we probably have ground turkey, right?
We have ground turkey.
That's what we'll use.
Yeah. Still ripping, says Ruth. That's great. You know, every I forget where I came across it, but the idea of every hour you spend organizing stuff, you gain back some
huge
proportion
amount.
Of like 2 hours or 3 hours, like 2 or 3 times the amount in efficiency.
Yeah.
And definitely getting your art supplies organized in ways that work for you,
including resources like stuff you want to collage.
Yeah,
with.
exactly.
Absolutely.
And I mean, that's your palette as a collage artist. So
that's right.
It's gonna pay off. So well done.
Yeah. So Ruth, I picture you sitting on the floor surrounded by magazines. Am I wrong about that? Are you at a table? You're at a table, but I like to picture you sitting on the floor surrounded.
All right, so they're coming in.
Oh, great.
I was putting your 2 names together and calling you Cheryl. Cheryl says, excellent. Finished my Valentine's piece and did some color mixing play. Love working while listening to you two. Thanks so much.
That's lovely. Thank you,
us.
Cheryl. I really appreciate that.
Yeah. And Valerie says, I have kimchi-filled dumplings for dinner. Wow.
Ooh,
okay.
Nice.
Make sure you have some
hot and spicy.
Some plain rice and some water nearby for
Yeah,
that.
no kidding, eh?
And Rebecca says, I can add one more piece to my collage. Excellent. And Cherie says, awesome. I'm almost ready to post on Collage Vignettes. I especially love your drawing on the red field of color. Yeah, me too.
Yeah, it does set off a black and white like this so well. And it's an auspicious color for the new year. So that,
that's
that
good.
was certainly a factor, going along with my red apron, my customary red apron. I should maybe switch to the overhead camera.
Yeah, exactly.
The face camera.
Ruth says, our fourth bedroom is my studio. I am sitting at a table.
Okay.
Mostly because every inch of the floor is covered with my piles of paper.
Oh, that's so funny.
I feel your pain and your pleasure, both, Ruth.
Yeah. Me too. Let's get that like that. All right. And flip it up. Oh, too far. And I feel far away. So I'll move the computer closer. All right. Well, I see it's 3:31. Unusually, I just felt like I didn't want to do any more to the tiger. You know that thing of, we've all done it, I'm sure, when you just keep going too long because you don't know when to stop. I just knew I needed to stop with this.
Yeah.
And, you know.
Good decision.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. I think if we all had a timer that went off when we're like 90% done,
to force us to
sort
pause,
of like a little warning track that's like, okay, it's, you know, this is a good time to pause before you do the finishing touches and maybe come back to it a little later. Because so many of us just go right past that sweet spot.
And maybe there are just too many finishing touches we have planned. And so, yeah.
I've learned the hard way by being, I had to stop because I was pulled away by something. And then I come back and I'm like, wow, I had so much more planned, but I'm glad I ended up stopping here because you know what? It only needs, or maybe it's done. It only needs a little tiny bit. So.
Exactly.
So Annie says, thanks for a fun afternoon. Back to cooking. Yes, enjoy it, Annie.
Have a fantastic New Year's Eve dinner, and all the best to you and yours for New Year's, and to everybody else here as well. Even if you're not born to a Lunar New Year celebration, we can all benefit, right, from a good Lunar New Year.
And Marianne's been working on embroidery because she says embroidery is so painstaking. Arg!
It is.
It definitely, you need to not have too much coffee, and you need to just have a sort of a type B approach to it, right?
Doop-de-doo, patiently stitching away. Because when when you have it done, it's going to be so rewarding.
Be awesome. Yeah, exactly.
So
definitely lots of hours in the
We'd love to see it when you get it done. That's lovely. So I want to wish everyone a happy year of the water tiger. Every all the cycles of the Chinese, etc., astrological cycle is associated with an element. It could be wood or fire or metal, water. I think that there's another one not coming to mind, but this year it's the water tiger, and there's something about that combination image that I really like. Maybe it's because I'm working on fire stuff right now, and that contrast is really interesting to me. But
Val says, thanks a lot. Got my collage done. See you next week.
Yay.
Yeah,
have a great
we'll see you next week, Val. Thanks so much.
See you at 2:00 next Monday
for Virtual Collage Jam.
Virtual Collage Jam on Cal Honey's channel.
Yes, and you'll be getting your, I'm just going to give you a little heads up that you'll be getting your emails on a nicely scheduled, because I've hired Rebecca,
a brilliant and talented assistant to
Rebecca, who a bunch of you know, to give me a little help with some of the admin type stuff. So things are going to start happening when they're supposed to, instead of at the last minute the way I do them.
It's going to be awe-inspiring. And
thank you, Rebecca.
I have a meeting with with someone tomorrow who's going to help me with some stuff too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this time next year, we're going to be unrecognizably organized and professional.
I already feel that way.
That's certainly what we hope. Hell, in 3 months' time, it'd be nice to feel that way. So
Cherie says, so glad Carol called me. You're worth leaving the rabbit hole for. And Ruth says, I'll still be cutting out papers. Marianne says, so fun, thanks.
And
Rebecca
thank
says,
you so
no problem.
much.
Thanks, Jubal. Thank you, Rebecca.
Yeah. Thank you, Rebecca. I really appreciate what you're doing for him. I'm just amazed that he's doing it. He's delegating anything. It's awesome.
Delegation has always been a challenge for him.
Yes, it has. So, all right.
Yeah. Thanks so much, guys.
Happy feasting.
Yes. Happy New Year. And we'll see you next week.
Bye for now.
Bye-bye.